back to another KidZone video. We're excited that you're joining us today. I need your guys' help today, okay? We're going to try and do a challenge, and I'm going to see if you guys can help me figure out how to do this. So what I need you to do is to go through your house, ask your mom and dad if you can have 2 pieces of paper, and then also ask if you can use a pair of scissors, or if your mom and dad can help you use a pair of scissors, okay? So we're going to pause the video right now. Go ahead and grab those things and then come on back and we'll tell you what our challenge is going to be. Alright, so here's what the challenge is, okay? We are going to see if we can get our entire body to fit inside of this piece of paper. So we have to be able to fit our whole body through this piece of paper. So I've got my very special helper, who's also a little bit smaller than I am, so maybe he can figure this out. We're going to try and get him to fit through this piece of paper. So let's see if we can like tear a hole here. So go ahead and try at home with one of your pieces of paper. Try to see if you can fit through your piece of paper, okay? And here's the thing, here's the trick. You're not allowed to break the edges of it, okay? So it has to still be able to fold and look like a piece of paper. So I'm going to see, let's start with your arm. See if we can get your arm. Come over here. Let's see. All right, now we're going to go up over your head. Uh-oh, it's starting to rip. Can you get your head through there? Oh, no. Oh, no. We didn't get it, did we? Oh. Do you think we can get our whole body through this piece of paper? No, I don't. That seems like an impossible task, doesn't it? I don't know if there's any way we could possibly do this. Well, I'm going to teach you guys a trick on how to do this. This seems like an impossible task, but there's actually a pretty neat trick on how to do this, okay? So take your other piece of paper now, and I want you to fold it in half long ways, okay? And today's Bible story, we're going to be talking about a guy by the name of Ezekiel. And this comes from Ezekiel chapter 37. And God gave him a task, and he said that he thought the same thing that we're thinking. It's impossible. There's no way that this is going to happen. But we're going to see, just like we're going to do, that with God, all things are possible. So once you folded your paper in half, I want you to take the side that's open like this, put it on the bottom, and we're going to cut little strips into it, okay? But here's the key. Make sure you don't go all the way to the top. Make sure it can still fold like this, okay? And we're going to cut little strips in it.
And the fold's on top.
And the fold is on top for this cut. Okay? So go pretty close to the top, but don't go all the way to the top. Alright? So now, once you're done with that part, it should look like a little hula skirt. So come here, Lucas. Do a little hula dance for everybody. Say la 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 la. Alright. So now what I need you to do is take your paper and flip it upside down, okay? And we're going to cut right here in between these lines. But here's the really important part. Don't cut either of the ends, okay? So start on the second one and cut right up the middle of it and do the same thing where you don't go all the way to the top again. Okay? So really close. Cut right down the middle. Don't cut all the way through. Cut right up to the top. Okay? Almost there. A couple more left. If you're having trouble with this, get your mom and dad to help you out. And one more. And remember not to do either of the ends. So your ends should be pretty big. And the middle one, they should look like this. Now there's one more step that we need to do, okay? There's parts in here that are stuck together still. And we need to cut these parts, okay? So you'll see like this, just take a pair of scissors and cut these. And remember, don't touch the ones on the end. Alright? So cut these apart. Cut this one apart. There's a couple more to do. Put this little itty bitty one apart. Cut the next one. Is right here. And that should be all of them. So let's see what we got here. Now we're going to try and open up our piece of paper. Very gently open up our piece of paper. And see now that our paper is all together. But we should be able to fit inside this piece of paper now. See if we can get our whole body to go inside this piece of paper. So step your feet through first. Careful not to rip it. Now put it up over your head. Did you get through it? Do you think I can get my whole body through this piece of paper?
Logan, can you get through it?
Let's see. Ta-da! I made it through too. Logan, would you like to turn? Okay, Logan doesn't want to turn. So this seemed like an impossible task, but we were able to get our entire bodies through this piece of paper. And that reminds me of the Bible story in Ezekiel. See, Ezekiel was a prophet, and he was a prophet to Israel. God sent him to Israel to deliver a message to them. Now, if you remember, Israel was God's chosen people. If you think all the way back to Abraham in the Old Testament, God tells Abraham, I'm going to make you a great nation. Well, that great nation is Israel, and things are going all right for Israel for a little bit. They're obeying God. God is protecting them. He takes them out of Egypt. He brings them into the promised land. Things are going good, but Israel had a problem. They sometimes sin, just like you and I do. They would start to worship other gods. And there's this one time they started worshiping other gods, and God allowed them to be taken over by the Babylonians. And so Israel was this great nation, and these people came in and they wiped them almost all the way out. They tore their city apart, they broke their temple, and they took them all back to their homeland. So now Israel, they're not in their city anymore. It's all ruined. They're not able to worship God in their temple. It's all destroyed. And they're not even in their own land. They're back in Babylon, and they're having to be slaves and do all this work. And so God tells Ezekiel, he says, hey, Ezekiel, guess what? I want you to go tell Israel that they're going to be a great nation, that I'm going to bless them. Things are going to be great. They're going to be a mighty name. And Ezekiel's thinking, well, how is this? Their temple's destroyed. Their city's destroyed. The people aren't even in the land that they're supposed to be in. Ezekiel said, that is impossible, God. That's just not going to be able to happen. So God does something that I think is pretty cool. He takes Ezekiel and he gives him this vision. So it's kind of like a dream. And he takes Ezekiel into this valley. So you have like two hills up here, and there's a valley in the middle. And inside this valley, it's like a desert land. There's all sand. Everything's all dried up. And inside the valley, there's a bunch of bones. Some people had a bunch of bones. They were dead. They have been dead for a very, very, very long time. They were all dried up, and there's just nothing but bones in this valley. And God asked Ezekiel a pretty crazy question. He says, Ezekiel, do you think these bones can come to life? And so Ezekiel thinks for a second. He's like, God, only you know what these bones are able to do. And so God says, well, I want you to tell these bones that God says to come to life. And so that's exactly what Ezekiel says. He said, bones, God says that you're going to have skin, you're going to get up, and guess what happens? All of a sudden they have skin, and they have a body, and God puts breath into them, and they get up, and there's a mighty army. See, that seems like an impossible thing. But with God, all things are possible. Sometimes we can go through hard things too. Maybe you guys, like me, maybe school is really hard for you guys. Maybe there's a subject that you just can't get the hang of. For me, it was math. I thought it was impossible for me to be able to learn how to do math. Maybe you're going through some hardships at home. Maybe your mom and dad are going through some hard times. Maybe your grandmas and grandpas, maybe your brothers and sisters. Sometimes we can feel like stuff is impossible and that we're never going to be able to get through it. Sometimes it can be hard because we're kind of stuck at home right now since we're trying to beat this virus. And that can be hard too. And we can think, when is this ever going to end? This is impossible. I can't do this. But we can be reminded, like we were from today's Bible story, that with God, all things are possible and that He gives us the strength that we need to get through the things that He allows us to go through. And it also reminds us that on our own, it is impossible for us to restore our relationship with God. See, God created us to have a relationship with Him, to hang out with Him, to have fun with Him, but we sinned and that broke our relationship. And the Bible says that it is impossible for us to do anything to make up for this relationship. We can't restore this relationship that we've broken. But with God, all things are possible. And so God sent Jesus to this earth. He lived a perfect life, and he died on the cross and took on the punishment for our sin. You see, our sin has consequences, and that means we're going to be separated from God. But God loved us so much that he sent his son to die on the cross so that we could have that relationship with him. Because with God, all things are possible, and our relationship can be restored. So I hope this encourages you guys. I hope that you guys remember that no matter what you're facing, all things are possible with God. And I hope that you have fun showing your mom and dad, seeing if you can get them to fit inside of this piece of paper as well. All right, guys, we love you, and we look forward to our next video. Thank you.